everyone, welcome to the Preserving Kitchen again today. This is a bit of a disclaimer that I need to share with you guys. I have a heap of passion fruit that I need to preserve. Now, I have done these in 3 different ways, but this video today is about passion fruit jam. So I had a look for some recipes in some of the books I've got. I had a look on the internet, on YouTube, and I couldn't find anything that was a specific tried and tested recipe for a passion fruit jam. So the book that I'm looking at is Wonderful Ways to Prepare Preserves. With the knowledge I have of making jams, kind of used one of the recipes out of this book along with the modern way of preserving the jam itself. So in this book, I couldn't find a passion fruit jam recipe. So what is in this book though is a passion fruit and pear jam. So I've used the quantities of that specific recipe and exchanged the pear for pineapple because I wanted to make a pineapple with passion fruit and pineapple jam. I thought those 2 flavors would go really well together. It says 2 kilos of pear firms, 24 passion fruit, and 1 3/4 kilo of sugar, or 3.5 pounds of sugar. Generally when you make a jam, it is equal parts sugar to equal parts fruit. So what the recipe I've done is I've done 2.5 cups of passion fruit pulp to 1 tin of pineapple. I've used tin pineapple because it's cheaper to use the tinned pineapple than it is to get fresh pineapple. And I also then know that I've got some of the juice there as well, and I know that the pineapple itself is going to taste like a pineapple. So with that pineapple, I just blitzed that pineapple up and made it to like a crushed pineapple. And then I used 2.5 cups of sugar. I started on the leaner side with the sugar because I knew that the pineapple was going to be quite sweet as well, so I didn't want to make the whole jam itself so overly sweet that we couldn't eat it. So, and then I added 1/4 cup of lemon juice. Now lemon juice helps set the jam, so ups the acidity of the jam as well itself. So there is no pectin, no jam setter, no any of that kind of stuff in this recipe. Nothing for preserving. It is just straight fruit and sugar and lemon juice. So guys, this is not a tried and tested recipe that you will actually find anywhere. So make sure that if you're going to give this recipe a go, that you understand that you are doing it at your own risk. I don't believe that there is an issue with making the jam this way. I've made plenty of different jams, plum jam, pear jam, apricot jam, all to my own recipe and my own liking. So that is what I'm doing with this recipe itself. So in saying that, guys, let's get up into the kitchen and get this jam made. Once all your ingredients is in the pot, put it on the stove and bring it up to a boil slowly. This will take a while, as you don't want to do this too fast, so that you can melt the sugar down and do a sweetness test. Once the sugar has dissolved, do a sweetness test and see if you need to add any more sugar. I added the reserved pineapple juice, and the sweetness from that was enough to adjust the flavour to my liking. If you need to, add some more sugar in there. When the jam starts to boil, keep a really close eye on it, as you don't want it to boil over or to burn your jam. You will notice a foamy layer on the top. I usually remove this. It gives a clear looking jam, and then there are none of those little air bubbles on the top of your jam when you jar it up. You also then don't need to add any of the butter to help reduce those bubbles on the top, as some people do. How to test your jam to see if it's ready to be turned off to be jarred up. Well, to start with, you need to place 2 plates in the freezer when you start making your jam, so that these plates become very cold. A cold plate works way faster as it rapidly cools the hot jam, so you will see how firm it is when the jam has set and become cold. To do a set test, put about a tablespoon of jam onto the cold plate and let it sit for a few minutes so the jam can cool. Wipe your finger through the jam, and if the jam holds its shape, it is ready to be jarred up. Keep boiling it and for a further 10 or 15 minutes and do another test. You'll see as I go through my 3 different tests that I've done that as the jam cools, the running down the side of the plate becomes slower and slower to the point where it doesn't do it anymore. As it cools on the plate, you can see it is less runny, and this is what you're looking for. It is very important to tell when the jam is cold how firm it's going to be. Don't rush your jam. This can take anywhere from an hour to 3 hours for it to cook down to the right consistency. Just because a book says 30 minutes doesn't mean it's going to take 30 minutes. There are a lot of other factors like the heat on your stove, the type of pot you're using, how runny your fruits were, etc., etc. On this last jam set test here, 3 times it's taken me to get this right. You can see that it's become quite a thicker liquid, and it is not running down the plate as much as it was when we started. This is what you guys are looking for. There's other way that I can tell that this is ready just from the way it kind of drips off the spoon. It's a slow drip off the spoon. So I'm just going to let this sit here to cool down. When my jars are ready, I'm going to jar them up. If this is set a little bit before I get them into the jars, then I'll just warm it up just a little bit, just enough so that I can get it into the jars, and then I will put it through the processor. Over time, it has been suggested that you no longer need to sterilize your jars, or if you are using a Vacola unit to process your jars, or if you are water bath canning your jars for more than 10 minutes, you no longer need to sterilize the jars, as it is done during the processing. I still always will and always have sterilized my jars. That way I know that the jars are clean and bacteria free. The method I used depends on whether I need cold jars or hot jars. For cold jars, I just use my dishwasher as they cool slowly and are kept out of the way and clean until I need them in a clean area. For hot jars, I use a pot of boiling water so that I can get the jars out as I need them and they don't cool too fast. When boiling your jars, put them into cold water first and then turn on the gas. If you put your jars into boiling water, there is a chance that you can crack your jars and break them from the shock of going into the hot boiling water. They need to be boiled for a minimum of 10 minutes. You can leave them sitting in your pot of water until your jam is ready for you to jar them up. You can make your own decision and do your own research into whether you feel you need to or you don't need to sterilize your jars. Filling your jars is the same way as any other food. I will be leaving a 1 centimeter headspace, wiping the rims with a clean cloth dipped in hot water. The hot water helps melt the sugar on the rims and ensures that the rims are super clean. Don't forget to debubble your jars to help remove any air. Place the lids on as tight as what is recommended for the type of jars you are using. It depends on what type you are using on how tight you need to do it. I will be doing finger tight with these jars, which I purchased from Red Dot shops for around $1.10 each, depending on the prices at the time. Then I'll place them into my processor unit. I'm using my Vacola, my Royal Vacola unit today. Once placed in my Royal Vacola unit, I will be processing them for the proper standard processing time. There are plenty of sites and places you can find out the processing times for your units. Mine is 90 minutes from turning on the PowerPoint. If you are going to water bath your jam, just make sure that your jars have been heated up to the same temperature as your jam, and that your water you will be water bathing in them in is as the same temperature as well. The processing time depends on your jar size. There are plenty of places you can also research the length of time you need to process your jars. Usually between 20 to 30 minutes is the general processing time. So whichever method you use, whether it's a Vacola unit or a water bathing unit, they both do the same process, which is to remove the air out of the jars to cause a seal so that your jam is in a sealed, airtight zone.